呢個係當年咧嗰個 officer 咧嗰個嘅廚房啊，御廚房。佢張床都好細嘅啫，咁佢有個私家暖爐，廚房都幾寬廣，有陣燒嘢味，好多唔同嘅用具咧。佢呢碌咧係呢個糖嚟嘅，佢都有啲糖錐啊，係喺呢個加勒比海嗰邊咧嚟到去做啦，靠嗰啲黑人嘅勞工咁樣，跟住然之後咧就 ship 到過嚟北美洲。咁點解佢會變咗圓洲咧？係因為咧佢係喺呢個咁嘅竹嗰度咧，咁然之後就提煉咗嗰啲嘅 sugar 啦，咁跟住咧滴乾咗啲水咧，咁佢咧個容器就會變成咗咁嘅圓錐體咁樣。咁你會睇到佢嗰個啦，啱啦，一個咁樣圓錐咁樣，咁你咧就剝濕咗佢，揾呢個鉗鉗咗一嚿出嚟，然之後咧就用呢個嚟中開佢哋而家嗰啲白砂糖。咁呢個本書啊講 Sugar Changed the World。哦，有呢個 pancake。Can I take one? The whole thing? Oh, thank you. Yeah, very good.
Yeah, that's the yeah. If you're going to RC Harris, like
But
Ewan says he might know somebody there who can maybe hook us up for like our own tour.
走開咗呢個咁嘅房之後，哇個 officer 嗰個咁嘅房都幾大啊，有個 office 喺呢度。跟住呢度咧，仲有個好大好大嘅飯廳。呢度仲可以玩啤牌。呢度有個辦公室，辦公室都有呢個壁爐。呢個唔知係咪工人房咧？咁佢咧就有個大壁爐，咁呢度都可以煮好飯、煲湯。呢度有另外一間房，仲有個紅皮啊。一個秘密通道。地窖喎，有啲聞到有啲噏味，有啲小朋友喺度考古，都好大喎地窖。佢都要講擺啲乜啦，擺啲木啊，擺啲石啊，擺啲磚啊嗰啲，即係其實都係超級雜物嘅。不過 at the same time 咧，咁佢亦都有個舊廚房喺呢度。佢話點解個屋頂咁污糟咧？係因為咧呢個熱廚房咧，咁好多煙氣上騰啊，煙燻味咁樣咧，咁啊驚燻到上邊呢個軍官住嘅地方，咁所以咧佢特登咧就鋪咗啲草啊，鋪咗啲嘢咧，咁噏鬼住上邊。咁唔知係咪因為咁嘅時候，係少少酸咧，聞到啲都有成陣噏味。呢度仲有啲咩咧？哇，好黑！裏面其實應該係個煙通嚟嘅，唔入去啦，好黑。嚇，原來係栽錢㗎，咁過癮！即夾萬嚟嘅喎 ，cool！ 就翻出去啦。成個 Fort York 咁啊行完啦，好嘢！咁啊行咗4個鐘。3點半呢場咧就好多人睇。
The cartridges, paper cartridges he would need to load fire his musket, and then off his left hip he has his bayonet, 17 inches of solid steel, designed to fit over the end of the musket barrel. So basically you have a combination of a firearm and steel. Now, because he's just wearing civilian attire, you can imagine on some battlefields early in the War of 1812, determining who was who could be a little difficult. If, say, the Upper Canadian militia were wearing their regular civilian clothes and the New York militia were wearing their regular civilian clothes, how can we tell who's who? Well, you notice he has a white cloth tied around his right of 1812. Different symbols that would be determined in advance of a battle in order to tell who was who. One of the other ways to do it was, obviously that's a little harder because people might drop their hat during the course of the battle. But obviously this wasn't a really good solution. In the end, when you're asking these men to defend their communities, sometimes they would be called up for extended periods of times. You would want to issue them proper uniforms. So by the middle of the war, the militia began to be issued with green uniforms. And gentleman in the middle represents the militiamen from the middle of the war, so about 1813. Now, ideally, they wanted to have all the Canadian militiamen in red, just like the regular soldiers back then, but there wasn't enough red coats being delivered here from the United Kingdom, so they had to make do with these green jackets instead. They also began to issue militiamen standard trousers and shoes and caps. By the end of the war, the supply situation more and more with the traditional red coat of the British infantry. So the last gentleman you see on the field there is in the red coat that they would have been given by the end of the war. And there's actually not too much to differentiate. So those free men kind of show you the evolution of the uniforms and clothing that would have been worn by the militia over battle, and in battle, of course, a bullet. They tear open the cartridge with the teeth and pour a little bit of gunpowder into the lock or the firing mechanism of the musket. So that's what's going to be used. And pour the rest of the gunpowder, paper, and in battle, of course, the bullet down the mouth or muzzle of the barrel. They're then ordered to withdraw their ramrods, these long steel shafts that they use to force the charge down the barrel all the way to its breech. So they pack the gunpowder and the paper and the bullet all the way down to the breech or bottom of the barrel. And they're ready to fire. Now this may be a little loud, so I recommend that when they're about to fire, I would plug your ears if you are so inclined. I warned you it would be loud. We'd be able to load and fire the musket anywhere from, say, about 15 to 20 seconds, resulting in a theoretical rate of fire of 3, even 4 shots a minute. But that rate of fire was not sustainable. You wouldn't be able to keep it up indefinitely. And it was the officer's job, the gentleman in the red coat you see there, to control the rate of fire. It wasn't the speed at which you could load and fire, but how deliberate that fire was that was going to determine who would win or lose. Now you also notice that each back then, where you had hundreds if not thousands of men engaged in fighting each other, that you'd have these billowing clouds of gray smoke starting to blanket the battlefield. So these uniforms that the militiamen were wearing, the uniforms that the regular soldiers wore, quite frankly, they were the best way to tell who is on your side and who was the enemy through this literal fog of war.
出到嚟之後，原來佢個聯歡會已經收檔，可能係琴晚啦個聯歡會，唔知咧。嗰個有個小朋友喺度玩緊滑板，練習緊，好搞笑。嗰度有個小朋友走到入去咧，Fort York裏邊喺度曬日光，咁又有架單車咁踩。幾寫意，雖然我唔會咁做，因為我覺得好曬，我覺得好熱。咁但係都幾得意。加拿大係做到，如果喺第二啲地方咧，好多時候會趕你走，低能，唔知做乜嘢，要趕你走。